That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We have a new theme tune for the Jared Brennan Disorder podcast. I wrote it myself. So, one interesting thing about that is, though, I played that little lick on Stuart Neville's guitar. Well, it's my guitar now. Stuart Neville gave it to me years ago after a library event, which was really generous of him. Like, he had 37 of them or something, and he was finished tinkering about with this one, but still nice to have like a cool wee Les Paul copy with a story behind it. And it sounds pretty sweet. Even clean. And even with a dude who can't do tone anywhere near as well as other people can. But I like it. And I think I'm going to start incorporating this kind of stuff into the podcast more often. Just like a little whittle here or there to make sure everybody's awake. You know, that kind of thing. Just because I can. Or I might plug in my bass from time to time. But I don't think it's a bad idea. I kind of half nicked that from the Blind Boy podcast. He always has these little chords going on in the background with a key, you know, from his keyboard. And I think it adds a nice atmosphere to what he's doing. And, you know, I know it's not entirely original, but this is my version of that, you know, where I'll just cut in and out every once in a while, maybe drop a little chord or whatever, you know, you never know. It could just be anything. Of course, the G chord will feature heavily because that's the original chord from the original podcast. You know? Funky wee guitar though. I love it. Yeah, so last week I have to admit the sound quality of the podcast was a bit atrocious. The thing is, I had got a whole bunch of new studio type equipment, but I hadn't put an awful lot of time into figuring out how to use it properly. Small things like just not being close enough to the microphone. I had it so it was only coming out through one earphone or one speaker. So I think I've fixed those things now. And I'm hoping that the sound quality will be much improved this week. I was partly thinking of going back and, you know, tinkering with it until it sounded a lot better or whatever. But I think I just need to leave that and head on with the next thing. Because I have so many things I should be doing. And I know what I'm like. I have this awful tendency to get caught up in the minutiae of things. It probably comes in handy for someone who wants to write stuff. You know, you get really obsessed with details and you check everything out and whatnot. But as far as, you know, efficiency and getting things done quickly and everything, it's not a really good trait. So I have to be aware that I have a tendency to get caught up in small things and that they can be to the detriment of other stuff that I could be getting done. So every so often I'll be having a wee look. I'll maybe stop the recording once in a while, just checking the sound levels and making sure that everything is at a decent volume, that you're not straining to hear it when you're driving to work, or that you can hear it over traffic, you know. I'm just going to touch up the level a tiny little bit, and hopefully we're not getting too much background noise with that. But if I'm doing my editing job properly, I should be able to fix that too. What it looks like on my screen here is that I have a tendency to let my voice drop, especially when I'm just talking to myself. So I need to keep an eye on that and make sure that I am speaking loud enough. I also have to be mindful that with this microphone, it can do omnidirectional, but I have it set to sort of it's kind of like a shotgun mode, just to try and get it as great. And if I need to take a big deep breath, then I can sort of go in behind the little vocal booth I have set up here, and hopefully that won't interfere with the sound too much, because I don't really like hearing myself going halfway through a sentence and stuff like that. I think it's a little bit unprofessional. I think at one point I did a podcast talking about getting caught up in the minutiae of things. It was one time I did a podcast and I had a bit of a head cold, And every time I sniffed, it came up as a little spike on my Audacity screen. So I went through it and I deleted every single one of those sniffs. I think it took a good 5 minutes off the length of the podcast as well, made it a little bit tighter. But again, I don't have time to be editing to that detail. I try to do these podcasts in as close to a first draft as possible, because eventually I might start doing them live, and that could be a lot of fun too. And if I am going to do them live, then I'm going to have to be able to learn how to control my voice, how to control my lungs, how to make sure I'm getting the most out of each lungful, and that every breath I take doesn't interrupt the flow of the podcast. One of the reasons that probably happens is to do with my posture as well. So I have the microphone set up at a sort of comfortable level. I'm sitting down today instead of standing up. I used to always stand up when I was doing these things, but today I've changed that up a little bit. I think I can still keep my lungs open as long as I'm not slumping in the chair. And the chair is rather uncomfortable, so, it's not natural for me to slump in it. So it should work. So, enough with the sound crap. What I plan to do today is to read another short story from that collection, Other Stories and Nothing But Time, and talk a little bit, maybe about writing, or my lack of writing at the minute. Maybe talk about, whatever just comes into my head. Might talk about a movie. There's a book I've been reading by a guy called Tim McGabhann, a new Irish crime writer. The book's called Call Him Mine. And although I'm not finished, I have a few thoughts on it, and I'm looking forward to being able to give it a decent review when I am finished. If it is a good book. The signs so far would say, yes, it is a very good book. And I've heard that from other people, much more learned than I am. So my hopes are rather high, which is good. I think sometimes when you go into a book with that attitude, like, oh, I'm going to enjoy this, you might forgive a wee thing or two. Not that I'm saying Tim McGabhann needs anything forgiven. I'm too early into the book for that to be a factor. But a lot of times, if you're expecting to have a good read, or if you're expecting to have a good night, if you're expecting to do a good session of writing, a lot of the time that's how it turns out. I don't know if that's some sort of mindfulness trick or something, but it might be something worth employing in life. I like to just start the day off thinking, okay, today has the potential to be a good day. And unless something really bad happens, I don't let myself start to believe that the day is going wrong. There may be minor inconveniences. Maybe I'm stuck behind a tractor on the way to work and I'm 2 minutes late. That gets me into a bit of a fluster and, I'm starting off on the wrong foot. But really, 2 minutes isn't going to get me fired. Might piss off a colleague or two, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to be there. I'm still going to do everything I can to make the people I work for as well cared for as they possibly can be. And I just have to look for the fun and the joy in every day. And I think that's been really good for, my mental health awareness, I suppose we'll call it. Which again is something I've been threatening to do this for a long time, mostly internally in my own head. But when I get to the end of this short story collection, instead of reading more stories, I might start talking a little bit about mental health. And we'll maybe warm into that over the next few episodes, where I'm talking about my own challenges in maintaining a healthy mental condition. I'm not saying that I have a mental illness or anything, but I would say that I do tend towards the mentally unhealthy, as Blind Boy puts it, to steal from him again. And I think that's, it is something that really bears thinking about. You can't walk around life just expecting everything to be great, especially if you're not doing anything about it. Same way you can't drive around in a car if you're not going to check the oil, or at least get a mechanic to check the oil, or fill it up with diesel the odd time. You have to be aware that things need attention, that things need to be topped up, and sometimes my optimism needs to be topped up, just like my creativity needs to be topped up. And Jared Brennan seamlessly segues back to the creative endeavours. Yes, I feel like right now at this moment, I'm in a little period of topping up the creative juices in my body, my brain, my soul, wherever this shit comes from. And it's a slow process, but I'm trying to be patient with it. So I'm not getting the writing done that I want to get done, but I'm trying to do as many other things as I possibly can to ensure that that will happen soon. So talking like this podcast, there's a selfish nature to it as well. If I feel like I'm talking as a writer about writing, then it's going to drive me to actually do more writing. I hope so anyway. I hope I'm not just burning an hour that I have to do this. And also, I feel as if reading more, which again is tied to this podcast as I plan to talk about books, reading more also helps. The other thing I need to do is remember to go watch movies and things like that. At the minute, the bulk of my time has been put into trying to get better at playing the bass guitar. Now, I don't know to what end this endeavour has taken me. I don't think I'm young enough anymore to start a rock band and skyrocket through the charts. I'm never going to be good enough to be a session musician because I didn't pay attention to playing for an awful long time. So really, I'm restarting playing the bass, and I didn't start young enough of too much to catch up on. I did play when I was a teenager and I got very good at it, but, neglecting anything for 15, 20 years is just a bad idea. So I don't think I'll ever be able to do that. Maybe someday I'll be able to play in a cover band and have fun that way. Maybe write the odd little tune myself just to entertain myself, or stick on as a bit of bonus material in a podcast, or, a book or an audiobook. But other than that, there's not much I can do. However, while I'm waiting for the new material to arrive, what I've been doing is slowly gathering up books that have gone out of print, or the publishers have died, or have parted ways with the publisher, and I'm starting to self-publish them again. I also have 2 new books which I'm going to consider self-publishing, just simply to have something out there, because I don't want to just disappear. I sort of built up a little bit of momentum with my novel Disorder, and I don't want that to go away, but it's gotten to the point now where that's a danger. It's been over 1.5 years since that was released, and I really need to get back onto it, and figure out what I'm doing with my life. Do I still want to be a writer? Of course I do. The real issue is the work that has to be done for that to be a reality. And I'm not doing that work at the minute. I fully confess to that. I have plenty of reasons or excuses or whatever you want to call them. Obstacles, but a lot of the time it's just me getting in my way. I did a library event in Kilkeel not so long ago. It was quite good. It wasn't a huge audience, but they were all engaged. Asked a lot of good questions. And at one point, as I was talking about writing, one of the questions included the comment that I was quite driven when it comes to writing. And I felt a little bit like a fraud because I haven't been that driven in the last few months. I used to be the guy that, tried to find time anywhere. Because when you think about it, we all get 24 hours. Writers don't get that extra magic hour in a pocket somewhere that you can dial into when you want to write for a bit. What you do is you sacrifice other things. What I used to always do was sacrifice sleep, or, sacrifice doing something else. Maybe ignoring my own health, something like that. Not exercising enough, or eating something quickly because I didn't give myself time to cook a healthy meal, whatever. And I feel like I could reorganize my time at the minute and try and come up with a better writing pattern. It's never going to be one of those write every day kind of things, because the nature of my job, where I actually spend 24 hours in the building on a regular basis, means that I don't always have access to my laptop in order to do that. But I'm doing what I can to fix the situation, and I will continue to try and fix the situation. It's all I can do. We can only examine what we're doing and then try and make improvements on that. So for now, I'm not going to talk about this horrible period of writer's block that I seem to be going through. What I'm going to do is concentrate on the positives. And the positives are that with the new job, I've been able to work a little more overtime, and with some of that extra money, I have bought some nice studio equipment. I've bought myself a nice new guitar. I have found things to be enthusiastic about and that I hope will eventually feed my creativity. And I'm just going to continue on like that, but at the same time add in some more writing sessions. I just need to be at the computer more and sitting with the full intention of writing, rather than playing with a podcast or looking at videos on what bass line to learn next, that kind of thing. So hopefully, and it's coming up to November, so I could set myself a challenge of that NaNoWriMo thing, even if I'm not part of the whole group thing where we all join different Facebook groups or whatever and compare writing tallies at the end of the day. I could just use some of that creative energy that's flying around the planet, as all the way through November people battle to get 50,000 words written. If I was able to write even 40,000 words in November, I would have the novel that I'm working on all but finished, and Jesus, that would be amazing. That would be so, so good. So hopefully I can tap into that. We'll see. Watch this space. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig out the next short story that I'm going to read out for you. I have written it myself, but I'm going to read it out for you as part of this new Other Stories and Nothing But Time season of the Jared Brennan Disorder podcast. So this story is called Nothing But Time. It was first published by Pulp Pusher, a crime fiction webzine that was run by Tony Black back in the day. In 2011, this one was published, so it's a bit of an oldie. Hopefully it's a goodie. Nothing But Time. This is it then. Prison. Stripped of my right to freedom. At the mercy of screws and rules and timetables. I'm a grown man. Can't even decide when to flick off my own light. Wish they could switch off my mind when the darkness comes. Maybe tomorrow I'll ask somebody where I can get some pills. Control that much at least. Or maybe I should be looking for something else. A shiv or a shank or a blade. Whatever the name. Something to put holes in any bastard that comes near me. It's been 4 days and I haven't fought to maintain my anal virtue. Struck lucky. No cellmate, you see. The guy I was meant to bunk up with died of an overdose the night before I arrived. Bad news for him, but it's made my life much easier. I'm not going to be anybody's bitch. I've seen the TV shows and the movies, even read a few books. None of them were set in Northern Ireland, but you could bet the same thing happened in HMP McGabhann. I saw some of those body-built freaks eyeing me up in the shower yesterday. Fucking fruits. I'll stick my thumb in their eyes before any of them stick their steroid-shriveled dicks in me. My heart thuds like a jungle beat. Lights out. I put down a book I've been trying to read. My mind keeps drifting. None of the words have stuck. I'll need to start it again tomorrow night. Before I came in here, I heard the cells all had TVs and PlayStations. Sounded like a hotel. I've fuck all in mine. Sink, desk, chair, bunks, and the dark. Don't even have a toilet. You can shout to be let out for a piss in the middle of the night, but I just make sure I've emptied my bladder before they lock the cells. I need my sleep. Food shite. That's another myth. I heard that it costs more to feed a prisoner than a child at school. I don't believe that anymore. Frozen chips and microwave pie has been the best on offer since I got here. Stinking. I half doze for hours, maybe all night. It can be hard to tell. I'm sitting up, legs swinging off the top bunk when they unlock the doors. It's been years since I quit, but suddenly I'm craving a smoke. I make a decision. First chance I get, I'm starting up again. And I'll find drugs. Anything I can get at all. Dope, coke, speed, meds. Fuck it. I'll take heroin if I can get it. The shiv can wait. I'll take care of the inner conflicts before worrying about the external. I need drugs. A quick piss stop, then breakfast. A step up from gruel. A joyless refueling. There's laughter in one corner of the hall. A screw wanders over to investigate. I feel cold. The screw has his back to me. He's laughing with the prisoners. Is that allowed? Another screw joins them. I scratch at my scalp. Dry flakes ball up under my nails. An urge grips me. I should look over my shoulder. Be alert. Senses tingle. But I'm safe here, right? Just being paranoid. A heavy hand clamps down on my shoulder. Hot morning breath on my ear. We remember you, you touting bastard. I try to shug the hand off my shoulders. The grip tightens. Hot breath gets hotter. Heats my whole head. I'm almost choking on the sour smell. One of my cousins died in this shithole because of your loose lips. You're fucked, son. I'm going to kill you myself. And that's it. My real sentence. The morning breath retreats. Blood flows once again in my shoulder, but ghostly fingers remain. I shudder. The screws have stopped laughing. They're on watch again. Not good enough. I've seen it now. They can be distracted. Long enough for a knife in the back to follow the blast of hot, sour breath in my ear. I am so fucked. I consider my juice. Leave it. I better forget the drugs for now. There's no real escape here. They know. They all know. May as well tattoo tout on my forehead. And there's no fighting me now. I'm at the bottom of this heap of scum, lower than the thieves, dealers and murderers. I thought I had nothing but time for the next 6 years, but the promise of death twangs on my nerves now. I'll be lucky to see 6 days. Unless there are steps down from my place on the prison food chain. Some are worse than touts. Rapists and paedophiles. The lowest of the low. I'm just a little better than that. But just a little might be enough. Is this hope? I scan the canteen. One of these dodgy looking fucks can help me out. They'll stick out like a sore thumb. Ah, there you are. In a corner of the canteen a thin man sits. His eyes are puffed and ringed in purple, fading to light blue to yellow. His nose is kinked and crimped. His face is scarred. This man has been through the wars. Worse, he's in hell's waiting room. Those forced to sit at his table are angled away from him. He's invisible for now, insubstantial. Until the opportunity once again arises to punish him. Then I imagine he'd be the most visible bastard in this place. For now he picks at his food, snags the odd nibble and makes eye contact with no man. I've found my new friend. A bustle of activity and we've cleared our plates. I spend the morning in a head spin. Screws tell me what's what. Rules, rules, rules. Then a load of shite about rehabilitation. I have to choose a national vocational qualification. Horticulture sounds good to me. Might give me some tips for growing weed. I say very little throughout the morning. One screw jokes. You're very quiet. Didn't you used to be a £10 tout? Must have been quantity over quality, what? Fucking prick. Lunchtime rolls around 30 seconds before I crack up for good. I try to eat, but I can't. My mind races. I glance over my shoulder every 2 seconds. Then I notice the thin man with the battered face. The pervert. I keep an eye on him. When we are given permission to go to the recreation area, I shadow him. He takes a seat. Another corner. Nearby, a couple of big lads play pool. The pervert glances at them occasionally, but his eyes never linger. He's on guard, looking out for himself. Alone, like me. I take a deep breath. Time to introduce myself. The 8-ball is smooth and cool in my grip. One of the big lads complain. I ignore him. He reaches out and takes the pool ball back. I slap his hairy knuckle hand away. He's surprised, steps back. I breeze past. The blinkers are on. All I can see is the lonely perv, and he sees me. Instinct stiffens him. There is doubt in his eyes. He knows I'm here to do him harm. That's how it works in the movies. Show everybody how hard you are. Mash up the poor fucker and gain some respect. I get that. Maybe somebody who matters will watch my back. I grab a handful of the perv's shirt. It's a nice material. We don't do prison uniforms here. I yank him from his seat. Some buttons ping away and skitter across the cold linoleum. I pull back my 8-ball weighted hand. The way is clear. If I landed on his temple in the first shot, the rest of the beating won't hurt him too bad. I'll make a show of it. Make it look more vicious than it really is. I stare into his eyes. But just as I am about to pound him, expecting what? Fear? He glares at me. His swollen lids frame mere slits of eyes. He's not resigned to this beating. I pause. Worst thing I can do. The blinkers evaporate. Panoramic view. Dolby surround sound. Excitement. Shouting. Are they cheering for me or the perv? Why would they cheer for him? Isn't he the bottom of the heap? My knees buckle. I'm wrestled to the ground. The screws, they're folding my arms like they're shirt sleeves. Pain shoots from wrist to elbow. Burning electricity. I want to wipe the tears from my eyes, the snot from my nose. Can't. You're breaking my fucking arms! Laughter. The 8-ball rolls across the floor. One of the big lads stops it with his foot. He bends to retrieve the black orb. He stares at me in the face, makes kissy lips at me. Then he plonks the ball on the table and goes back to his game. I'm hauled to my feet and the commotion fades. Some of the inmates make a point of grinning in my face. Then the hotter than hot sour breath blasts in my ear again. Same voice from breakfast. Stupid fucking tout. Couldn't even fuck up wee Ronnie, no mates. Please, I say. Don't hurt me. I try to turn and get a look at the screw with the hot sour breath. I can't quite see him. It'd be a kindness to kill you, mate, he says. The animals in here are going to have a field day with you. I can only hope my cousin is looking down, laughing his balls off. 6 years I got, and the promise of death would be a mercy. The end. Aye, so that was one of the stories from that wee thing. That's two darkish stories. That one's not just as bad as Hard Rock, but Day Tripping is the next one. We'll do that next week, and it's a more lighthearted, funny story. In fact, it's as close to comedy as I write. It's a fun wee tale. Well, I think it is, and I hope you agree with me. But yeah, again, thinking about that story, you know, it's quite dark. It's short. It's a nice, sharp shock, I suppose you would call it. And considering the age of it, I'm happy enough with the writing, you know. And again, this is probably good for me, to go back and force myself to read my own stuff and to remind myself that I'm not a shit writer. In fact, I'm a pretty fucking good writer, and there's no shame in saying that. I work hard on my craft. I've done a hell of a lot. I've written a lot. I've studied a lot. I've read a lot. I wrote a feckin' PhD on creative writing, you know, and I need to remember once in a while that that's what I'm here for, really. It's all well and good having a day job that I enjoy now. And I wonder sometimes if that's part of the reason I'm not trying as hard with the writing, because I'm not trying to escape anymore. When I worked in that office, I was always trying to escape. I was always thinking one good advance would get me out of here for a year, or a really good advance would get me out of here for life. But that's a pipe dream now when you think about what people get for advances. But that was always the plan for me, was to use my writing to get out of a situation I didn't want to be in. Turns out now I'm in a situation I quite like. My job's really hard work. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of mental energy, a lot of emotional energy. But it's so rewarding. It's a fun job. And I can't even go into the specifics of that, because obviously there's data protection and safeguarding to be considered. You know, I'm working with people who are vulnerable, and I can't talk about them individually or anything. So I won't. You know, that'd just be stupid. It would be mean as well to the people that I am dedicating my working day to protecting as well. So I'll not be doing that. I'll not be talking about individual cases or anything. And I certainly won't be writing about them, which seems to be kind of a fear among some of my colleagues, you know. But then a lot of my colleagues don't read so much, so they probably don't know what I've written in the past. They probably don't know I'm only interested in fiction. They probably don't know I'm only interested in crime fiction. Certainly some of the stuff that I do will possibly inform a novel at some point, but it'll never be a, you know, an autobiographical account or anything like that. It's always going to be like just somewhere that I get ideas from the odd time. And it'll be a mashup of things and exaggerations and understatements of situations. And if you're a writer, or even are thinking of becoming a writer, you know what I'm talking about. We don't really need to write everything we experience. It's just that our experiences will somehow influence what we write eventually, even in a very oblique or obscure way. So yeah, there's that. I think this podcast might actually be a half hour long now already, which is absolutely crazy. It doesn't be long passing by. And again, I think I have solved a lot of the sound problems, but I don't want to get too cocky with it either, so I'm not going to return back to my normal hour length until I know I have the sound quality of the podcast nailed. I want to make sure that I know what I'm doing. And I think maybe for the next podcast as well, I might prepare a few notes so that I can sort of, you know, not totally plan out the podcast, but at least eliminate any pauses or make sure that I have a point or a theme to the podcast. The last two have been a little bit scattered on either side of the story. I haven't really put an awful lot of thought into what I'm going to say before I say it. I've just sat myself in front of a microphone. The way as a writer I sat myself in front of a blank Word document and just see what happens. And it just so happens that this talking thing has been working out for me a little bit better than the writing thing so far. But who knows, maybe I'm exercising the same muscles, and maybe this is going to be another part of the puzzle that gets me back on the track to writing. this season seems to be shaping up to be, let's see if we can get Jared back in creative mode or something. Let's see if Jared will finish his fucking book. Let's see if Jared will do a tap, you know. I'm worrying myself now, talking about myself in the third person, so I'm going to put a stop to that right now. Interestingly, that story that I just read, it was written in first person, and I think that makes it a more engaging listen. You know, I'm not sure how it works with reading. I mix my writing. Sometimes I write in third, sometimes I write in first. Sometimes it's just dictated by whatever mood I'm in. Sometimes I know the story needs one or the other. But I do think that there's more personality comes through, really, whenever you are reading in first person or reading a story that was written in first person. So be interesting to see how many more of these first person stories come across a little bit better. So I don't know. Should I just head on? Oh no, I shouldn't just head on, because I haven't actually talked about Tim McGabhann's book yet. And I said that I would, and so I will. Now, I'm only like 6 chapters in, but it's shaping up to be very good. It's an Irish guy who's a journalist, and he's in Mexico, a very, very dangerous part of Mexico. And so far there's been good suspense and a little bit of gore and fantastic writing. And that's the main thing that's drawing me to this book, is the actual writing. I had the opportunity of talking to Tim McGabhann in Harrogate, and he's a fascinating man, you know, very cool looking dude. Sometimes difficult to hear, but it means you listen a little harder, I guess. And he always had plenty of interesting stuff to say, so it was really nice meeting him. And as with anything, when you meet another writer and you find that you actually like their style of writing, it just makes things a little less awkward next time you're talking to them. Obviously, we're not all going to love what everybody writes. It's just not possible. You know, we all have varying tastes. But I like what Tim's doing, and I'm very much looking forward to finishing that book and finding out how much I like it and how successfully he has captured my imagination. And that's the 3 things I wanted to do. Have a quick kick-off, make sure the sound quality was good, read a wee story to you, and talk about what I'm reading currently. I saw The Joker the other day, but everybody's talking about that, so I don't really need to add too much to it, other than to say I actually loved it, and if you didn't, I don't really want to hear about it. You know, it's not up to you to destroy my enjoyment of a movie. I don't really care what you think of it. I don't care if you think that it's going to be an indictment on American mental health, or that it may cause people to shoot up a cinema again or something. It would be terrible if these things happened, but this is a work of art. If someone decides to go and shoot up a cinema, that's because they're a fucking dickhead and they decided to go and shoot up a cinema. It's not because they saw a movie and then they were suddenly given the urge to do it. It didn't make them more brave. It didn't make them more insane or unhinged. It didn't set up a situation where they can walk into a sports store and buy a gun that has the capacity to shoot up so many people all at one time. It's a fucking movie, folks. You know? Nobody set out to inspire people to go and murder other people. It's a piece of entertainment, and it's supposed to make you think. Now, one useful thing is that it's maybe opened up the gun debate without the necessity for a bunch of innocent children to be killed in a school, which is always a good thing. But the thing is, by the time they've had this debate, it's probably happened 3 or 4 more times in America, and we haven't heard about it because it's become such a common occurrence now that it's no longer news. Yeah. So that was me subtly talking about my feelings on gun control, I guess. I think I should probably stop there because I'm not American. I don't understand the culture. It's not really my fight, but, you know, seems to me less guns would mean less murder. Maybe I'm just a stupid hippie. Who knows? Rather than leave the podcast on this note, let's try and raise the tone a little bit. I didn't mean to get my ranty pants on just there now. And if I was going to do that, I should have saved that for earlier on the podcast. This should be my outro. So what I think I might do is calm things down a little. Bear with me, folks, while I go and get my bass. I think that'll do for an outro this week. I'll maybe do a little baseline outro every week. We'll see. Cheerio, folks. Have a nice week, and I'll try to as well. And hopefully we'll all get a little more writing, reading, and general lifestyle delighting done. Love yous lads like jelly tots. Bye.